just tell you, I do sometimes.
Jeff, you fucking cocksucker! Why don't you follow me back? What's your deal?
Maybe it's too early. Is it too early?
I think the answer is in your clothes.
You have to suck a little bit harder.
Right. No, I'm referring to Jeff as the cocksucker.
Right.
But he's a cool cocksucker. Like, he's funny at least.
That's right.
Sam, are you obsessed with him a little bit? Because it sounds like you are.
If I am, what's the problem?
Have some dignity, my man.
Dignity?
No, She combined dignity and decency together. That's so interesting.
Well, you're also prone to
She's British. She can make up words.
1995.
She's the source of all words.
David keeps saying, pull me up. I don't know what the fuck this is, but can you guys pull me up?
Hold on now.
You gotta have standards in life.
Okay, if we bring him up, we need to send someone down. Wait.
Right.
I would highly recommend you don't.
No, he's
Hard sale.
Hey, David.
Hey guys.
I'm not supposed to bring you up, and he had to go down. That's the price for asking to bring someone up. They switch places.
He looks good down there.
To your friend? Do you claim him as your friend?
No, I don't know who the fuck that is.
Why was he asking for you to come up then?
I don't know. He was cussing me out in this other room.
Say that.
Dude, David, stop, man. You fucking messaged me privately.
Shut the fuck up. No one messaged you.
Alright, whatever.
Do you guys have got a bromance going on?
No.
Is that what it is?
If we do,
Yeah, he sounds very gay. But more than gay, he
He's
sounds
a
like
29-year-old virgin.
more than gay. Oh my god, more than gay, he sounds like faggot.
Yeah.
I'm not Afghan, dude. I just follow
I'm Afghan.
Afghan rules so I can holler at some Afghan girls. Just
Are you an Afghanistan?
Sam Don supports Taliban. He's a corrupt person.
That's back to that.
Are you the type of Afghan that puts, I don't know, surrounds himself with like
Little boys? Yeah, that's how we surround around your boys. Yeah, Sam.
How do you know about that, Jeff? No, I'm actually Pakistani. I just.
He's not Pakistani. He's lying.
That's my cock, dude. Stop speaking on behalf of me.
I would have said the same thing, man.
Yeah.
Isa, your cough is bad.
oh yeah, it's been for 10 days. I've been very sick for 10 days.
Same.
Nobody cares though.
David's like a dick.
Right here, that's not true. I'd rather not.
I care about everybody in this room, but the people between the Sams and the Sams.
So both Sams you don't like? Even though
I'm not sure if I understand, but I think it's your fault, honestly. I really
guilty by association. That's what it is.
You're the other Sam jumped in my room the same day, like the last time I saw you. And they look the same person. So I'm not really sure if my disdain for the other Sam is actually justified.
Jeff, all you have to do is follow me back, and I can, maybe we can.
Why are you being a following whore?
You know, Sam Don,
Because I am a whore.
he gets you
Wait.
I tried it. I relapsed.
What does your prophet think about this behavior?
I don't know.
You know Sam Don is an atheist?
Did he just say I don't know?
He's an atheist. He's an atheist.
Is maybe atheist like Taliban supporter?
Yep. Yeah.
I mean, shit, dude. Jeff, you said you're a North African Jew. I've never heard that before either.
Your ignorance doesn't make me rare.
I love Jews.
I love Jews too.
They're just,
I never heard of
they're doing the right thing.
I think you need to read more and talk less.
I believe that, so I believe we can all do that.
Why? I mean, there are degrees in life, Sam. No, I'm just shocked by the fact that your inability to like own whatever.
I literally just owned it. I said I believe we all should do that, and I included myself in that too. I don't know what the hell you're talking about.
I've heard so many stories over the years about Chevy Chase, but I know that he was one of your champions.
We can't do it open, and I'll tell you how. Two pictures open in the marketplace.
So then just fucking follow me back. Shit, what the fuck?
Silence of the limit.
That's where I was.
And then Julia Roberts sleeping with the enemy. You can be sure every woman in America told their husbands or girl or boyfriends or we're going to see those two movies.
I've heard so many stories about
And and if you look like anything close to like an idiot in front of it, he's not going to put up with that.
Direction of a 1991 movie that I absolutely love. Nothing But Trouble.
Nothing But Trouble was a fun, very serviceable comedy.
Is the reason why you get kicked out of rooms, Sam?
I never I got kicked out of
Operation
just because
we're taking 10
Me.
million salaries out of
Yeah,
kids
it's big
every
deal.
year.
No. You specifically to you that it's okay to be yourself. Whoever told you to be yourself, they'll like you very much. Because that's what's gonna get you a lot of friends in your case.
A giant object crashes.
No, they know me very well. And they choose to hang out with me. Those are my real friends, not fake friends that I have to put up.
Yeah, but those might be bad people who are hanging out with you because they
No, they're very good people. We're very close.
Was it your
I'm not saying you're not close with them. I'm saying they enjoy bad behavior as much as you do.
Being bad behavior is very subjective. I will say that.
No, it isn't bad behavior.
How is it not subjective? How is it not subjective?
Okay, define something as bad behavior which is subjective and not objective.
Like drinking with your boys at the bar and then getting so fucked up that one of them puts
But
something.
aren't you a Muslim? You're not supposed to drink.
Who said I was a Muslim?
You're not Dani.
No.
You don't have to be Afghan to be Muslim.
Yeah, you can be fucking like Jeff's fucking Arab Muslim, Arab Jew. Like I've never heard of that, but he is.
There's a million of us.
That's crazy.
Well, actually, a million of us in 1948. There's like a lot more of us than that.
Yeah, shit.
I mean,
I
literally,
remember that until I met Jeff.
70% of Israeli Jews have a background similar.
I thought Israeli Jews were from fucking Europe.
That's because you listen to the anti-Semites.
Yeah, that's
Only 30% of Israeli Jews.
All Jews come from Europe, Sam?
No. The ones that came into Israel. Remember when?
No, that's also wrong.
The ones that survived the Holocaust.
Yeah, some of them did survive. How do you deal with that?
I have no problem with that. I believe all human life is precious.
I completely
Bumper sticker, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm not a supporter of genocide, if that's what you guys are asking.
No, it's not about genocide, but not all lives matter.
I believe they do.
No, they don't. I think pedophiles should be completely sacked.
Yeah, but fucking like.
Like for example, Mohammed, right?
No, there's presidents that are pedophiles. I don't see you saying anything about them.
Oh, all pedophiles.
Your guys' hero Elvis Presley married a fucking 12-year-old.
I don't know whose hero is Elvis Presley, not mine.
That's Jeff's fucking hero. He's like old as shit. You probably know.
He literally died on my birthday.
No, he did not. You were like 20 when he fucking died.
No, he died on my birthday. Sorry about that.
That's
Jeff, you're like fucking 80. How the fuck did you die on your birthday?
So you're saying you have an alibi for that day, Jeff?
I do. Oh boy.
Good.
There's been a recent thing. It must be a picture. I don't know.
Send me a friend request, and I'm right now debating whether I should actually follow him back or block
Oh, me or somebody
you.
else?
Yeah, you.
Get
I'm
the
like,
fuck out of here. You already
you
followed me
are
back.
blocking
Stop
you.
lying.
Friend you or block you.
Stop lying. You already fucking added me.
Yeah, I know, but that's what I'm saying. I'm debating
Yeah,
whether I
I'm
should friend you or block you.
I don't know why you would unfriend somebody you just met.
I mean, clearly,
I don't know when I would friend somebody that I see.
No, that's so fucking rude. Like, that's like giving somebody a handshake and then saying, hey, I take my handshake back.
Well, I can take it back.
Cash your card.
David,
I can raise it and block you.
She shouldn't change her mind.
But Jeff, why are you being
She's
such a
not-
Jeff, why are you being such a cocksucker? You won't even fucking accept my friend request. That is
So
what
you-
fucked out. He said we're
You're an antisocial person.
antisocial. I'm over here talking to you. How's my antisocial?
I know shortage of ladies on there.
Yes,
David,
who's in your
what the fuck
picture
turn off
today?
Do you think you're the first self-hating guy
Dude, you gotta formulate your sentences before you speak.
Yeah, that's true. I'm still working.
Now I take back, you do not lie about Howard Stern. Howard Stern
That's
was
fine. Yeah,
Howard Stern was much more eloquently spoken than you were.
yeah, that's nice.
Yeah.
Sam Don, you know who you remind me of? Ryan Gosling.
Oh, thank you. Everyone says I look like a new look.
Why?
He looks like him.
Are you a receptionist, David?
Hey, sir, does that intrigue you now that you know that I look like
Smoke shop, don't think I'm not gonna help you. What's up?
Mute yourself, dude.
David over there owns a smoke shop just like us now.
Now we know where he works.
He's like every other fucking Arab that owns a smoke shop.
Yes, he is.
they manage good smoke shops.
Yes, they do.
Works in gas stations.
He sells weed out of his smoke
I
shop.
sell weed, I sell fent, I sell cocaine.
What did he want, David?
Say it again?
Shop.
That was a quick call, David. What did he want?
They're calling for a unit.
Like cop.
They're looking for a eunuch. You can give them that.
Yeah, no, me and David have done psychedelics before.
Tricky.
So you know each other in person?
Hell no, I never met this motherfucker a day in my life.
Sounds like facts.
Where do you live, David?
I live in Virginia.
What about you, Sam?
That's
I
fine.
live in California.
Oh, so you are a faggot.
Maybe.
She got you there.
Oh, I never denied it. I don't know.
She got you there. I ain't gonna lie. She got you there.
I just said I never denied it.
But she got you. She got you.
I never confirmed.
That's kind of true though. All faggots. There's more faggots in California than New York, Maryland, Virginia.
Capital of the world.
So many faggots there.
I mean, I don't know why is that.
I mean, you live.
Pot of gold.
I don't know why that would be
Sam is a big faggot.
Why is that so?
He has like a gay sticker on his car. He drives a Prius.
Yeah, but there's nothing wrong with it. I like both men and women. So what?
Nothing's wrong with that. There's anything wrong with that.
What
Oh,
does
there's
your
a lot
prophet
wrong.
say about that?
I would actually say
I'm actually being a gay atheist.
What does your prophet say about that, Sam?
A gay atheist Afghan.
I'm an atheist. Like,
Whoa.
Yeah, but are you, hold on. Are you a Muslim atheist, a Catholic atheist, a Jewish atheist? What?
I was always
He's all of the above.
Hold on.
He's Asian.
Shut up. Everybody shut up. So how were you raised?
I wasn't raised in any religion. I don't know why that's so hard for you to believe.
No, there needs to be some background. There always is.
Dude, I don't know. Maybe you grew up in a Muslim
Okay,
household and your dad
before you were an atheist, what religion were you born in, or what?
Dude, I just told you
His parents are Hindus. He was Hindu. He was Hindu.
Yes.
Oh, it's an Indian.
Yeah. No, there's Hindus in different countries, genius, okay? It's not just.
So you're an Indian.
He's a
But you're an Indian.
Hindus in Indonesia, you retard. How many times am I gonna tell you?
So, Sam, you should be the one answering
they're talking to you in the first place is because they think you have money and they're just using you for your money. I don't need for that to be.
So you answer Sam, you answer the phone for Jeff.
I would love to, but give me that.
You better take all some of the furniture off to me, bro.
The furniture?
No, things do better with women. Maybe less of them will be bothering me.
I don't think anyone
That's
loves
true.
I think when you have to pay for it, then you're not being
Actually,
it's not a flex to pay for a younger.
I don't flex about women, honestly.
You just did. You told me that
You know Sam talking to minors?
No, we were discussing the phenomenon that young women like older men. It wasn't flex.
you think a young woman would like David? Because I'm obviously, like,
Sausage off the market.
As long as young as that you're partially retarded.
How old are you, David?
23.
Aw.
But I'm 8 years.
See, David doesn't seem like such a retard. I follow.
Aw. Yeah, that's nice. Just don't follow Sam.
Oh, no,
I'm not gonna post him.
Oh, no, never.
yes, even if you don't follow me, also.
I never fall. No.
I'm on follow you right now, in fact.
And we'll be lucky if he gets through this unblocked.
There you go.
I'm so fucked up. Why are you gonna block me? I'm fucked
I
up.
think it's today.
If you're still on there, I just don't follow you.
I think it's because you're atheist.
That's
No. No, you're certified people mostly.
But he's an atheist version.
Right. If he's a virgin, then, no wonder he's angry at me.
I'm very sexually frustrated as we speak.
Yeah, you should have better.
I'm trying.
You know, Sam texted me one time. He told me he has troubles getting hard.
that's
Yes, troubles getting hard.
Yeah, probably there's probably the drugs.
right.
Drugs actually help.
No, they don't.
Either that or eat thousand pounds to get here with him.
Dude, have you guys ever done psychedelics and put on one of those fucking like those helmets, like one of those ones with virtual reality helmets, and then fucking watch porn and then think it's actually real life? That's the best shit ever.
That's more Thursdays.
Okay.
Aw. They're like incels.
So,
They cannot get the real thing.
Yes, I cannot. Even though I look like Ryan Gosling, so like,
You know Sam has to pay extra for sex.
I'm not saying it's an average, you make up your way at them.
No, when he tries to have sex.
So he pays for the opportunity to have sex and still
And then they still
Got it.
so bad. I don't think I'm probably actually didn't do it.
Got it.
so why would I still pay if I
And you know, I'm trying to get overtime.
I don't think he has money to pay for anyone. That's the reason why he don't support.
No,
I'm currently in a 2017 Prius and your years on that.
Oh shit, Walla.
Wow.
with 300 months.
I think him and Mikael would get along.
$200.
$200,000.
So I think they'll live all for each other and have the exact same accent.
Who, me and L?
I'll probably do it for you to men Sam. I love that you make me like
I would love for her to ride on me.
I think I got sauce.
Grab your own. You need to grab your ankles first. Yeah.
You got soft.
Maybe that's why he doesn't get laid. He can't get hard.
Who, me or David?
Somebody.
Oh, I get laid. I had to get one very too.
Oh,
Yes.
where are you gonna like break your virginity?
I didn't think I would ever say this, but I prefer to slow someone's stage, even though it's a pain in the ass.
Yes.
I'm trying to figure out if the hire I have at this other Sam is going to subjected from this Sam.
Yeah, it's this all, yeah.
Turns out there's some jackass Sam's running about. Turns out there's an anon shithead in the audience. I love when they use this emoji, because it's shit.
Maybe it's
Probably it is. Probably. How do we know?
We know.
how do we know?
Check his YouTube, stupid.
That's simple. If you go to his YouTube this week.
Yeah. You see him broadcast.
I don't think he goes to my room to broadcast them. I think that they're too boring for him. And he doesn't really get anybody triggered here.
Oh my God. Have a good one, everybody. I don't want to be on his recording seal.
Is it him?
I'll start over.
Someone just said he's recording the room.
But is it our?
He records a lot of rooms, whether he's projecting or not.
No. Someone in the chat said this room is being.
Oh, well, I don't see any stream right now.
People in the chat. Or Sam is probably full of shit.
Exactly. Anyway, hey Meyer, I haven't seen you.
Yeah, I like it. It is being streamed.
Meyer, how are you? I haven't seen you in a while. Yeah, I saw in the chat that you wanted to have a couple of homeworks when I was on Clubhouse for a little bit.
I did one real good Sunday morning, and I got busy pretty quickly after I started doing something.
What was it about?
Universal Junctions,
True. And what did you guys say?
Well, what everyone's saying is completely untrue, like usual. I'm a little bit concerned about exactly how it's going to work, but this is a situation that needs a remedy, so hopefully we'll get closer to the remedy.
Well, what do you think about the court's reasoning and the dissents? Right? That's where the
dissent was, in the words of Amy Coney Barrett, completely ridiculous and not worth looking at.
why?
Because it didn't have any jurisprudence logic. Like, she just wants the non-elected people to investigate non-elected people. That's bad enough. She just wants every court judge to be able to stop things at all times. She didn't deal with the problem. The problem is, it's like basically asymmetric warfare. An organization that wants to stop an executive order can have multiple litigants fight the case. Sometimes even in the same district, but in every district, over and over and over, until they get a universal injunction, and if you lose, it's a loss. So that's not like that constitutional oversight. That's mayhem. There is a problem here that she's not recognizing and pretending that it's a law that's been around forever, when this idea has been relatively new in historical terms and just became a huge problem. Now, birthright citizenship is a separate case, which we're going to deal with in a different day.
Placing an injunction.
Universal injunction. That's what the case is about, not about birthright. And then she keeps saying, they say that birthright citizenship is a case for another day. It is a case for another day. That's not an issue. There's no problem with keeping that as a case for another day. You do a class action, it's a little bit more cumbersome. It's doable. There was a class here.
Wait, but I'm not understanding something. So I thought that the fact that the Supreme Court ruled against universal injunctions was a good thing because that is being used as lawfare, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Now you're saying the opposite?
No, that's what I'm saying. There's he asked me about the dissent. Because Justice Jackson dissented, and I'm saying why she's wrong in her claim. So she's not recognizing that universal injunctions are a weapon, and she's just like saying that they're a necessary part to have a democracy, and claiming history, but there is no history there because it's new. The whole idea of universal injunctions is about 40 years old, and how ubiquitous they are and how quick they come. And every time you sign a piece of paper, you have to send it 32 times. That's new. So it's not fair to claim it's new.
And why did they start with the universal injunctions? What's the history there?
It's a
What's the case for that?
it's a new arsenal in welfare in the partisanship in this country. Executive orders. Obama governed with executive orders. That's Trump did it way more, so he upped it even. So it used to be executive orders were mostly for things like fly half massacre. Not government through executive orders. Obama basically started that trend, and Trump times it by 10.
Okay, like ruling by executive order.
Right, so the response to ruling by executive order is universal injunctions, but it's not being done well. This is so classic. The Democrats use, the Democrats did it on a higher level, but the Democrats use universal injunctions as a weapon. So the court is rectifying it and making it work in a way that it can work. And now they're screaming, if you take away this bullet in our arsenal, you're destroying democracy and you're having a runaway executive. It's not true.
It's the opposite, completely.
It's not. Right. Well, I have a concern that the fact that they only allow it to the parties in, it can make split decisions, and the Supreme Court is not designed to remedy quick split decisions on such a speed. Like something like this, like citizenship. The way it's set up now, if there's no class action, you can have split decisions in different districts. So that's something that now the Supreme Court is going to have to fix that quickly. So that's a concern that this new idea is not perfectly done. But the courts can do many things. The courts can designate a specific court for executive order. The courts can clean their docket in a way that they can fix split decisions much quicker than they're possible. There's ways to work around it. Some things are steps one. I have concerns about it, but I think they'll be fixed over the next few years.
Yeah, I think with the checks and balances in place, but that's the only people that should be really checking Trump.
I lost it now.
Yeah, no, my belly got lost too.
Over is a. No.
Yeah.
You're in and out.
Yeah.
What about now?
Right now it works. Try it again.
Okay, yeah, I had a red bar for a second. I'm not sure why. What I'm saying is that the only people that should be keeping Trump in check with the executive orders is the legislative branch, i.e. the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court and the House and the Senate. Those are the people that should be keeping the executive in check. No lower court should be implementing these injunctions like this. This shouldn't be allowed. That's why I think that's been rectified.
Okay, so here's the problem with that.
I'm just saying, why shouldn't that be allowed? If a judge in America has this certain concern about how the federal government is operating within his state, why would you say he shouldn't utilize his state and federally recognized power as a judge and interfere with a federal agent in his state?
I mean, you can go through the normal court process of appealing that to the Supreme Court. That's the process. That's
Well, I'm saying the judge himself puts down an injunction, says, yeah, these guys are a problem, you can arrest them, you can lock them up because they keep arresting people that they shouldn't. Right, I'm a judge. Can I do that?
You should not have that power. Only
You said in your state, Mike, you said in your state that you're not saying that the judges in their district have to, because you jumped away from the universal injunction. Is that intentional?
Okay, explain to me the legal mechanics of this universal injunction. Who issues them? Why? What's the
The second district judge says that birthright citizenship is anti-constitutional, and they're putting a stay on it, and there's a universally injunction in the entire country that this cannot go into effect anywhere in the entire country.
You're saying because it's currently under appeal and it has not yet been decided by the Supreme Court whether or not birthright citizenship is constitutional, therefore there must be an injunction until that decision is issued.
Correct. And in the entire country, not only in their district, not in their state, in the entire country.
Okay, 1 second.
And you're superseding an executive order.
Well,
You're superseding
is there any legitimate basis for not issuing clarity on whether or not birthright citizenship is constitutional? Hoping that doesn't help the issue. Like,
That's full court case.
Well, the court
case takes time. It's percolating. It's happening. It's gonna take time. It's gonna be like a 6 month.
they still have months to break back to each other.
Yeah.
Safe stop, we think.
Okay, so the court, if it wanted, could interrupt all that. Properly due process is not here in 1 page, right? So then the question is whether or not you issue an injunction to preemptively stop the executive in going through with his constitutional powers. Like in the
because what happens is you give the judge, you immediately give the judge power over both the legislative branch, all the other branches. You put district judges higher than everything else. That kind of power to stop legislation, to stop executive orders from going through. That's bullshit. No. Top down, not the bottom up.
So
any ruling which is issued, it's saying that if there is a court that rules on a particular order, right? There's an executive order to go do X. Someone says that doing X is unconstitutional, so they take it to the court and say, you know what, that is unconstitutional. And they appealed it. While they appealed it, someone puts a stay and says, hey, guess what? We want you to stop doing this until the court decides, right? They're just saying, this is all due process, this is very slow and formal, both sides need to get their ducks in a row and present their evidence and argue their case with chances for debate, right? That's what they're saying is the injunction, saying legally we need time.
It's not the same.
You understand in the previous, previously
question.
Understand?
the district court judges, the only power they always had was for that district. So they implement an injunction that says, okay, I'm going to do this thing, or I'm going to put an injunction in. It only applies to a district. Now you're given a federal power to do it for all the fucking districts. No.
Would they have it beyond their district? I don't think they would. Why would they?
they do now. That's the issue.
No, there might be a
Issuing it now.
judge in New Jersey decides that it's a reversal injunction that the federal government should not operate in this particular way until the Supreme Court decides on an issue. The Jersey court decides that. Jersey Supreme Court decides that. Everyone in New Jersey agrees with that. Why the fuck would anyone in New York give a shit?
Okay, you're talking about two different things.
Give me a second. Down to New Jersey State Court. New Jersey State Court, nobody cares about. If the second district bench judge decides that's unconstitutional, then every district, all 9 districts, will consider it unconstitutional. And the universal executive order will be put on hold until it's appealed.
Okay, there's a federal judge.
Yeah, keep talking about district.
I'm saying about district.
Let's get back on
I
topic.
can't finish a sentence.
Well, I mean, we said district multiple times. That's
In a district judge, we're saying that one district of the federal divisions of the country issues an opinion and the other districts have to abide by it?
Yes. I don't know if that's the case. That's what the case is about. You're just considering unconstitutional. How about this? Let's go to extremes. Let's go to extremes. This is what happened in oral argument. What if the executive order? I'm explaining it. Let's go to extremes. And that's what they did in oral argument. What if the executive order says all guns throughout the country should be confiscated? And the second district judge says no, that's clearly unconstitutional. Could they have the ability to say this is unconstitutional in our entire country?
No.
Okay, so that's the argument. What they're claiming is if the executive
Let me phrase that a little differently. Technically, yes, they declare that the district of relevance of that declaration is their jurisdiction,
right,
their district.
right. So that's what this decision is claiming. The relevance is their district. The relevance is really their people. Means if I claim I want to buy a gun, that could be the relevance.
All I'm saying is that the district judge can never control the opinions of the district judge for two.
That's what this decision says. The district Joseph two can never get enough told. There is a mechanism which I don't fully understand where they can take a peek at evidence and say this is so egregious I wanted a universal injunction, which I believe that goes up to the Supreme Court. But there's a system counter. Right. Right. There's one of that. Or it could, so this is where it gets confusing and I have to read it again with real people interpreting it, not the Democrats hyperbolic screaming that they're just completely wrong. You can also do a class action meeting. I mean, it's the NRA doing a class action lawsuit representing people in class in every district. And then there's a lottery in which district gets it, blah, blah. And they can say every gun owner is suing, and then every gun owner will keep their gun. So there's a mechanism. So it just has to be done right. But the advantage of a class action is you get one bite at the apple. If you lose, you can appeal. But you don't get to then go to ISA and have her sue. And if I lose, I go to the ISA and have him sue. So it's cleaning up the process. You can still fight executive order. It's just that it's cleaning the process.
With the injunction power.
Because then you represent because then the decision goes to the entire class.
I'm Miranda.
Whenever an injunction happens,
I
like a class, like a
district.
district, what happens is
Bro, it doesn't have to go on plaintiffs. And I sue all the entire district.
Hi, I'm Miranda. I'm Colombian. I have 6 brothers. One of them is in and out.
So you're in the matrix.
it travels up.
You got a gold bar attached to this can of Ford.
Alright, ice cold Ford. How about now? Now the red one.
I think it's okay now.
You're gonna have to log on to TransLacy.com and search the word Ford.
Is that the person makes me say gun rights are taken away, right? The decision of constitutionality has to occur. So what happens is, if there is an injunction that's suggested, it gets appealed up all to the Supreme Court. And then the Supreme Court will say, okay, we'll allow this injunction for now, or we'll stay at this injunction for now. Or they say, no, we're lifting this injunction because the rest of the so you may have a decision on the injunction itself, separate from the actual court argument that may or may not get all the way up to the Supreme Court. So the court may decide just on the injunction alone, separate from the rest of it.
So it's like eggs, like chicken, and it's like a chicken egg. It's
That's
Yeah, but I think like Zach was disagreeing with that.
I don't think it's great. I don't think it's standard yet. I mean, that's the clarifying question. So where is
Like that.
Yeah, so trying to understand what the injunction is, how it's distinctive from any other injunction, and why they should care.
Because in this case, instead of applying to things under your district, they were intentionally applying to the residents that are right, the residents. So that's a difference. You're not authority to hire what to do, what you can or can't do, or what's constitutional. The only group that should be able to determine that is the Supreme Court itself. And if they feel like this is the case, they should have went to the Supreme Court to issue the injunction, and get the Supreme Court to issue that injunction, not a federal judge. There should not be like, okay, we're going to stop this until we can get it through the Supreme Court. It should have been it always should be the Supreme Court issuing this, and that's been the issue. Is there's been federal judges trying to issue these injunctions when they should not have the power to do so.
No, not yet. It just seems like an injunction. Courts issue injunctions all the time. Why can't they just like issue an injunction and then it gets like appealed and removed and whatever way the injunctions are dealt with? I understand.
Lower level, not higher level. We can go down, we can't, but we go up. That's the point.
Understand
Not high enough, getting the
Maybe
rate.
an injunction on the governor or something.
There were a few issues that were raised. One issue was that you're outside your district. That was one of the things that they were saying. But the main argument they were arguing was court cases can only rule on people that are in the room. So if I sue you, and because you did X, you win. It doesn't mean that everyone who did X to automatically wins. That's a class action. So if now it gets confusing because some decision.
This is President Trump.
Well, the party is President Trump, but the person suing the party saying I want to be a citizen is John Doe, not every single person born in America. So those people are not. Now the reason why that's problematic with using USA is as long as then they make a universal injunction against the entire sex of water. So they
That's what I'm saying. The reason why it's irrelevant with the other parties is that the injunction is focusing on one party. I don't need to care who the other party is. The injunction is saying I'm talking to one person and telling him you cannot do something because the court is thinking through whether or not you should continue doing what you've been doing.
well, here's the point. Thinking through. That's what they changed.
President Trump. That's why he's named in the complaint.
Well, they're not going to do that anymore.
Like normal court procedure.
Yeah, so here's the issue. The problem is what organizations were doing is they would have multiple court cases at the same time, as many as 30. And if you lose the court case, then the executive order stands. And if you win the court case, you won. So you get 30 really infinite bites of the apple until you finally get a universal injunction and come up to work. So every executive order that's signed right now has to be defended in multiple courts at the same time, often two separate court cases within the same district. So that's not a tenable situation. Why is it not tenable?
No. Why?
Why not?
What I'm asking is why, if there is, let's say, mountains of litigation being produced as a result of a singular executive order, should not, for the sake of like efficiency, those cases be consolidated as a class?
That's what they're doing here, saying you have to consolidate the class. And yes, and if you don't and you win, only your client wins. You can't do a universal injunction forcing people to do it as a class with a
Okay, and there's different ways to do class action laws, just like it's
Right. Right. So that's what they're doing. They're forcing it to be a class. Now, once it's a class, now you have full buy-in because
because they have to go back and recertify it to a class now.
that's why the Democrats are lying.
That's like I don't know, conservatively maybe 2 years.
Once again, this case was already sued. They already did it.
What's the problem? They sued as a class.
No, they're lying. They're lying. That's a problem. It's not a problem. I mean, it's an interesting story. It's busted out for half an hour, but it's not. The hyperbolic issue is a lot.
The import of this case, it's just like sort of commenting that courts, I don't know, have to narrow the limitations.
That is my point. If you actually read the decision, the importance of this case gets diminished, and as the Democrats are screaming, no kings, you're making him into it. It's not true. They made procedural. So they can. So now there's a procedure.
Okay. Still
But they can still file class action.
Correct. accept that class as a class. And so,
What's the case?
this case, birthright citizenship.
Oh, okay.
So they didn't accept it as a class. They said like people born in America, I mean, the people born to citizen parents, whatever way they broke the class, then when you get a class rule, you have to prove that it's a class. So they didn't accept the class. So Trump's people said that he did this. So in the oral argument, they said that you can accept that class. He said no. So she reframed it and had a different certification. And he says, okay, so now it's a class. We kept going. So one of the things the analysts are lying about is that they wouldn't even accept the class. Trying to frame it as if he's going to define the court order. It's not accepting the class means he's going to challenge it, which is part of the process. I'll challenge the class. And it was in the oral argument itself, it was reframed, and that class was an acceptable class. Or of course, we'll say, no, this is a class, but either way, they're so blatantly lying, it's hilarious. Like, accept doesn't mean define, accept means challenge the court.
This is interesting, but how can you, I don't know, don't there need to be certain requirements to file a class? Like, there needs to actually be, exactly, there needs to actually be some sort of actual damage, right? Of like a current damage or something.
The damage
But
is easy.
it's not like a change of law. I mean, if it's not retroactive, unless they're planning to do it retroactively.
No, but you can do it going forward, right? So that's what you have to pull the class together. Probably, this one's not going retroactively, it's going forward. And you have to create the class in a way that it works. But you can create a class. You can create a class of.
Yeah, but if it's not retroactive, you cannot really have people that are being affected today because in the future, people are going to be born in the future, so there's no people affected yet.
No, but you can, because you can be a church that represents the rights of all individuals, and you can be an NGO. You can make a class of you can make a class of fetuses and say, we demand that you have the right to terminate abortion, terminate pregnancy,
Yeah,
because we represent that
so
class.
I'm reading here that in order for there to be a class certification, there must be certain things, right? And it says that the class has to be large enough to make individual lawsuits impractical. So basically, a class is just a bunch of individual lawsuits that come together so that instead of, making it more efficient, right? But if you don't really have individual lawsuits, because there are people who are not affected yet because they're not born yet, right?
Well, let's read the original case that Congressman versus Trump came from and see how they got standing, because I didn't have time. But the same way this one person got standing, you can make it close. Because whoever pursued has standing, right?
So, it says here that for a class certification, there needs to be certain things that are being met, right? So one of them is individual, that is large enough to make individual lawsuits impractical. All claims share common legal or factual questions, so that means that there needs to be claims. And the lead plaintiffs, there need to be actual plaintiffs. Claims are typical of the class, and the lead plaintiffs can adequately represent the interests of the group. But, I don't know if I'm reading this wrong because I'm not a lawyer, right? But my understanding is that there has to be individuals that have been called.
No, you're right.
That are plaintiffs, and they get together and they file a class action.
You're right, but let's back away from class, because there's a whole layers that I didn't read, which Rule 32. Let's back away from class. What about irregular? This case says that anyone born after 2026 will not be a citizen. Who has standing that could sue it? Because there are multiple lawsuits going on right now, so somebody has standing. So who has standing? I can't sue, even though I was born here, because I'm going to be a citizen. So who? Let's read that.
That's my point. Who would sue? You know.
Sorry, but they have classes.
So you need to be affected, right?
Right, so you don't need a class now. We're talking about one person. I'll say one person can sue. How do you could get standing? One of the ways you can get standing is you could represent those people. So you could say, I represent them.
But no, because you need to be a plaintiff. It's like, represent how? But my
So let's read the case.
Okay, but my point is, if then yes, you could have plenty of plaintiffs, you know, because there are people that are going to be affected by this new law and changing the law, and it's like, okay, they want to strip away from me the nationality or naturalization, however you call it. But if we're talking that moving forward, there are no plaintiffs because they haven't yet been born. There are no people affected unless you want to say, for example, maybe the pregnant woman, you know, that is living in the US. Oh, where did he go? I just heard him. Oh, there he is. You're right, Twitter. You're right, Twitter. Just let me say this again quickly, maybe. So, just briefly, what I was saying is that if it's going to be retroactive, then yes, fuck. What's going on with Meyer? Abby's here. She's not here. Oh, Meyer, there you are. What's going on with you? Meyer, are you okay?
Probably shitty internet.
Meyer. Meyer. Jesus, I hate it because I was putting so much heart into this argument and now he's not here. Hi, Abby.
So, side note, I'm not sure if it's related to this case or another one. I think it's this case. The ACLU is trying to argue that an unborn child is a citizen and has rights like a normal human being. But the thing in that.
What an irony in that, huh?
My point to Maya was, so, Maya, are you there? Can you just blink your mic just to know that you're listening?
I just popped back in. My audio kept blinking. It's me. My Bluetooth is shutting off. I had issues.
Okay, let me just repeat very briefly what I was saying to you. That so who will have standing, right, to make the lawsuit? And I was saying to you that if there are people representing owners, there needs to be already someone affected, in my opinion. Of course, I'm not a lawyer, and this is the reason why I'm just expressing my thinking. But in order to be, since this change of law is not going to be retroactive, if you make it retroactive, then yes, you will have a lot of people that will be affected because they want to strip the nationality or the naturalization from them. But if it's just moving forward, the people being born are still not yet being born. So
Yes.
you don't have yet the people affected, that they don't exist yet. So unless maybe you can say a pregnant mother, you know, that she
No, so this is the answer. Forget about class because that's adding a layer of confusion. Let's first talk about who has standing. In order to sue in the United States, you must have standing. You must say, I am personally affected by this, and if the court decides in my favor, it'll give me a remedy. So you need to have standing. I can't just walk in and say,
they need to exist already, right?
Oh, right. Okay, so there's the current lawsuits that are on the table have standing in two ways. There's an organization that represents immigrants. So that's a way of having standing, even though you don't have a person in front of you because that person wasn't born yet. They say we represent the right, or an NGO that represents immigrants. So they're standing. And states have sued, they have standing, because what they're saying is, if the federal government doesn't consider these children to be citizens and they don't give them federal help, then that's going to fall on us, and we're going to have a bunch of people that we can't deal with. So, like these Medicaid benefits, Medicaid benefits that come from the federal government, they're saying that's standing. That has been accepted by the court. Those two ideas as standing. What the court is adding now is they're saying Arizona can't sue, and Michigan, and Detroit, and you have 50 lawsuits by 50 different states. They have to join together in a class that possibly states. States will argue that we're all fighting as one cohesive group against this executive order. So standing has already been an issue and already been decided that you can't have standing in this case. Now, all those people, whoever they get their standing, have to join together into one class. And it's already been done, by the way.
For all cases, Mayor. So not just, that's basically applying across the board that when you have an injunction, it was a blanket statement about injunctions, more so than about the birthright.
Right.
It really wasn't about the birthright. It was about generally with injunctions that in order to have the standing that they're really looking, they left it open for a class to form. So with the other issues that have been litigated, as class, he signed the executive orders for each one of them in order to properly apply an injunction. If it was a class, then they would look at it differently.
Abby, does a big beautiful bill require a bond? Did that go through? So now we need a class and a bond?
I mean, you need a bond when you have a class.
So
So
I mean, you need a bond. You have to be bonded for that, for a class. To be, even when you certify a class.
the big beautiful bill added, one second, right? The big beautiful bill added bonding to everything. Well, I should say that. No, I should say that.
Well,
Past the House, they required bonding. I didn't read that.
Oh, I don't know.
The reconciliation.
I don't know. I mean, you know.
what is the
when you-
bonding? Can you try to explain
When you litigate, like, if you have a case and you lose it and you appeal, let's say you you lose your case and you also the other side got awarded attorney's fees, so you go and appeal it. In order to appeal it, you have to bond to the court. You have to get like a bond, you know, a financial instrument, the value of that case in order to proceed. Okay.
So in this case, for example, of the birthright citizenship, so you're saying that that they already define who gets what was the wording there? Who gets standing, or like who gets to sue, right? So you're saying the states also are going to be the ones suing. So if there are going to be an amount of states, a number of states that are going to form the class, so is there a minimum amount when it's at a state level that is required for these lawsuits to go ahead?
Yeah,
Or
it's not a number. The minimum is that it's not. It doesn't make sense to do one at a time. You can make that argument very quickly here. First of all, it doesn't make sense that different citizenship in different states, so they should be together as one case.
Yeah.
That's one strong argument. Second of all, an executive order shouldn't have to be defended 50 separate times. Even 50 is a big number. So it's not like you could say AT&T hurt 10,000 people. That's a huge number.
but is there a minimum amount, or is it
It's not a number. No, it's not a number. It doesn't. A lot of laws written this way. It doesn't make sense to do them individually because you can take different
I
factors.
get it that it doesn't make any sense to do it in an individual way. But in order to be able to file a
But that's the law.
action, then do all of them have to come forward, or is it enough when, I don't know, 25 come forward?
You mean to say join? If a class is formed, then you have to join the class. If you don't join the class, you can't do these separate ones. That becomes a law. That becomes the only of a class is I'm going to defend myself once.
Yeah, but what if, for example, only 25 states want to go against this,
And the other
25
states
don't?
but they can't. Then start decisis. Well, if they decide afterwards that they'd like to join it, it's too late. They can appeal it, but they can't. They can't run a
Yeah,
separate
but my
lawsuit.
point is like, okay, so I'm just trying to figure out how significant can be the pushback to this executive order. You know, like if only half of the country or half of the states are against it and the other ones are in favor of the non-birth right, like how do you manage that from a legal perspective? Like how do you change a law if half of the country, half of the states
Well, yeah, half the states could join.
don't?
Half the states could join. So let's say half the states join, and they lose. The other 25 can't now get a second bite at the apple and try again. But you don't need all 50 states to you once the class is certified, then that is good enough to go forward, and they will get their day in court. If they lose, they can appeal. They can appeal it all the way up to the Supreme Court, but they can't start a new lawsuit.
The other thing that can also happen is some of the states can join in with amicus briefs. You know, so they'll file a brief in support of the case, and you see this problem where you'll have, and this is interesting, where you have let's call them purple states in some ways, where you might have a Republican governor but a Democrat attorney general. So the Democrat AG may file on behalf of the state, or the legislature might be Dem and the governors are, or vice versa. You see what I'm saying? But we see a lot of these, like in the Harvard case, a lot of state attorney generals filed amicus briefs to support Harvard in that case, liberal ones. That's another way that they may join it. They're not parties to it.
Yeah, all of this is very interesting.
But you understand how a class gets formed, right? Generally.
Yeah, when you have enough people, I mean, so that it makes more sense to sue as a group rather than individually because it just makes it more efficient. And they represent the same interest.
Yes.
Yes.
That's what
But again, my question is
It's
still
like Rule
like I'm
32
still not
or
getting
something
the
like that.
Meyer.
It's probably 23. And I only heard an oral argument too.
Like, let's try this again. If half of the states are in favor, if half of the states, so half of the states want birthright and half of the states don't. They support the executive order. So if only half of the states sue, I mean, of course, it will apply to the 50 states because, as you say, Meyer, you cannot have birth citizenship just in certain states and so on. It has to be federal, right? However, if these half of the country is allowed to sue or to go against the interest of the other half of the country, what can the other half of the country do against the lawsuit that half of the country is putting forward?
You can support the plaintiff, so not the plaintiff. So it would be this is Casa versus Trump. Well, it's not really, but let's just call it states versus Trump. Because the class action in the states, whatever they name it. So the states versus Trump, you can support Trump. You can write legal briefs to help, but you can't. In your opinion, it's not a democracy. Your opinion doesn't matter. They're supposed to be looking at subject to the jurisprudence thereof. Does that mean that if you're born there, what about the precedents with legal issues? So they can lend support in that way, but there's nothing that they can or should do to change anyway. I have 20 states that joined in, and the city of San Francisco. So if other states want it, then their opinion is not really relevant.
Yeah, but then I don't know. I mean, I know it's not a democracy, but like, so for example, if the other states manage to actually push forward the lawsuit or whatever, make their case, and then the whole thing is gonna affect the whole country.
But it doesn't. It's a constitution. It's a federal.
Think about
So let's take like a court case. Let's say you have a whole bunch of states that are blue states. They're mostly Democrat states, and you have some states that have worked really hard to keep pollution out, and they're environmentally conscious states. And then you have other states that don't, that are not as environmentally conscious. You have West Virginia versus, let me think of a very blue state, Oregon, okay, or Washington State. I mean, completely different. One is coal mining, just a completely different approach to it. And then you have a case coming from the Supreme Court that deals directly with environmental and regulations, whether the regulations can be as strict as they are, who has the right to write these regulations, just dealing with that issue. So you have a bunch of states that want it strict and have state laws that are strict, but they want it strict. And you have states that it's in their best interest that it's not. And the court ruled in that particular case, and it was a West Virginia case, that the EPA, it was overly regulated. And I'm not getting into all the details of the case, but it basically kicked the right to make those regulations back to Congress and away from a very strict EPA agency, hurting that law, ultimately hurting those liberal blue states that are more environmentally conscious. But that was the ruling of the court, and so now that's the law of the land. I mean, you see what I'm saying? So that would
No,
be
no, I
an
understand.
example where some states
I understand that.
the other way. Mayor,
I understand that it will have to affect the whole land and not just the state. But my point is, what can the states that are, let's say, pro-Trump or pro this executive order do? What recourse do they have in order to go against the potential lawsuit that the blue states are going to put forward? So that, because they are also going to be affected. So I understand what the blue states can do in regards to these executive order, the birthright, whatever. But what can the red states do?
They can just they can write briefs, they can offer, help, they can.
This is what I mean, you were saying, yeah, well, they have to join the class action.
they don't have to necessarily join. They don't
Right, like, once it's defined, it's defined.
No, but the class action is not the red states versus blue states. It's, in this case, it'll be as opposed to blue states versus the government.
Older guys who, not doing that with enough, but they realize that, hey, you can make money if you actually learn something.
Am I right, April? Y'all been around her for weeks. We've all been around her.
There's a side to her that I've seen where she will, I don't know how to explain it. You would have to be in some of the stuff that went down, and I don't think you were, Patty. At the end when chatter was starting and we were all branching off away from.
So I left before y'all.
Yeah, she was acting like she isn't the way that she. I
left when Jerry came back.
What can I say, Lisa? Hello. I don't know. I don't have any hard feelings towards her, but I know who she is, right? I know who she shows herself to be.
Amen.
In some situations.
Amen. She might be nicer to me because I'm Army. Because remember, her and her daughter always be like, oh, this is not Army.
Listen, stuff like when she said her son asked Mom, what was it she said? How come white men are always to blame? I'm like, listen. And then they have black friends that come over to the pool and she was just like,
she loves to show her black kids friends.
and the stuff she said to us in the situation where not lots of other people were, those of us who branched off with the kid. She got issues. Yeah. I'm not fucking with her. I don't fucking with her at all.
Me either. I left when Jerry started coming back. Like when he started. Yeah. So y'all left. So remember, I was coming y'all phone every now and then. When Jerry,
Jerry came back for a minute, Lisa. It wasn't like. And then I had his girls. Yeah. I don't know.
And I even when he asked us to do that room that day, I knew Jerry was coming to the rooms, and I told him like I ain't doing no room with Jerry. I don't have a problem. I have a problem with his ideology, and I think he talked to me about myself.